No one imagined that the apparent calm at Manchester City could be hiding such a powerful storm, a sequence of internal decisions capable of completely reshaping the club's future. It was supposed to be just another international break, a moment of rest, tactical adjustments, and cold analysis. But quietly, a wave of rumors began spreading across England and Spain, creating an atmosphere of expectation and tension among supporters, directors, and even within the squad itself. The central topic? The most untouchable name in City's midfield. The player many consider the tactical heart of the team, the one who, until recently, was unimaginable to include in any sort of swap deal or negotiation. Rodri. The story began gaining strength when Spanish outlets mentioned a possibility that seemed impossible to believe. City were reportedly willing to consider using Rodri's name as part of a negotiation worth more than $100 million, aiming to bring Jude Bellingham to Manchester in 2026. The immediate reaction from fans was shock. How could the club even think of letting go of the player who helped them survive the Premier League's most ruthless battles? How could they consider sacrificing the piece that Guardiola shaped with surgical precision, turning him into the perfect anchor of the system? But as the week progressed, more details surfaced, and the idea, initially dismissed as absurd, began to be seen as a potential strategy within the cold, unforgiving logic of the market. Meanwhile, the team turned their attention back to the pitch after a dominant win over Liverpool, a performance so convincing that it reignited across the league the feeling that City remained the force everyone must fear. Guardiola celebrated his 10,000th match as a manager, a symbolic, almost poetic milestone during a collective display that seemed to reaffirm the supremacy built over recent years. But the detail that impressed analysts the most was not the scoreline or the control of the match. It was Rodri's partial absence. Last season, whenever he was unavailable, the team collapsed. It was like removing the foundation from a building. Yet this year, the scenario has changed. Nico Gonzalez, recently integrated into the system with a more prominent role, has been occupying the midfield with a maturity no one expected so soon. He has become the guardian of fluidity, the one responsible for filling gaps, the link that allows City to maintain their identity even without the Spaniard fully recovered from his cruciate ligament injury. This unexpected evolution has opened space for bold discussions inside and outside the club, and it is within this context that speculation about Bellingham gains fuel. Real Madrid's new phase, with Xabi Alonso implementing rigid discipline and a demanding standard that has unsettled some players, also adds uncertainty. Reports suggest discomfort in the dressing room, especially among strong personalities like Vinicius Jr. When such tension surfaces, the Spanish press wastes no time. Immediately, theories emerge about departures, ruptures, and extreme scenarios. Could Jude Bellingham be one of them? Could the most explosive, decisive, and high-profile player of the new generation at Madrid consider such a move? For City, he would be the ultimate piece, not only because of his extraordinary quality, compared by Ancelotti to Kaká, due to his rare blend of strength, intelligence, and perfect timing arriving in attack, but because of his ability to transform the club's midfield into something virtually unbeatable, a technical and physical engine capable of sustaining the team for the next 10 years. The question is, would the price of making him a reality be letting go of Rodri? A trade that seems impossible for fans, yet within internal discussions, is starting to be viewed as a calculated risk maneuver. But while these debates stir the club's backstage, other stories also begin to unfold, showing why City are far more than just a wealthy squad. Nico O'Reilly, for example, experienced the greatest moment of his young career. At 20 years old, he stepped onto the pitch at Wembley as if he were a veteran, taking the left-back role for the England national team and handling his debut as though it were a kickabout in his own back garden. He played the full 90 minutes, delivered a precise assist for Saka to open the scoring, and left the stadium carrying the emotion of someone living a dream that once felt distant. He received his first official cap from John Stones, becoming the 1,296th player to wear the England shirt. Phil Foden hugged him like an older brother witnessing a younger sibling reach the top. His family cried in the stands, And even then, he made it clear his next goal is to be at the 2026 World Cup. This rapid rise, combined with his strong performances at City, 14 matches, 1 goal, and 3 assists, directly affects the club's planning. That is why the analysis department is already scouting talents who could complement the squad in future windows. One of the most explored names is Antoine Semenyo, the Bournemouth forward experiencing his best form under Andoni Iraola. Strong, fast, aggressive, and increasingly efficient, Semenyo has attracted interest from Tottenham, Liverpool, and City themselves. His contract, renewed until 2030, makes any deal difficult but not impossible. And although there is no urgency, the club sees in him a profile that could fit perfectly into the adjustments planned for 2026, when Guardiola is expected to reshape the attacking unit with even more aggression. Meanwhile, an emotional shadow hangs over another story that has resurfaced, the situation involving Lucas Paqueta. The case that prevented him from joining City in 2023 marked his life in a brutal way. He was already finalizing the transfer details when the FA opened an investigation into alleged betting irregularities. The psychological impact was devastating. The frustration of having the biggest move of his career blocked by a murky episode followed him for months. Now, with the most serious accusations dismissed and only minor breaches remaining, he says he feels relieved, though he still carries the sense that he lost something irreplaceable. The question resurfacing in football is inevitable. Will City try again? At present, it seems unlikely, since the club is focused on younger names, such as Ryan Cherki and Tijani Reinders. But the truth is, football changes in weeks, not years, and Paqueta knows he could still attract major clubs in the next window. The atmosphere surrounding City is one of restlessness, ambitious planning, and speculation that could completely redefine the club's trajectory over the coming years. And this is only the beginning. With every new detail emerging behind the scenes, it became clear that Manchester City were navigating a rare moment, the kind that happens only a few times in a decade, when strategic decisions shape an entire cycle of success or decline. It was as if every narrative, Rodri's possible departure, the obsession with Bellingham, the rise of the youngsters, the market investigations, the emotional scars of failed negotiations, were aligning into a single timeline pointing towards 2026, a year that, internally, is already treated as a turning point in the club's project. The impact on the squad is visible, even if no one speaks openly about it. There is a subtle shift in gestures, in the tone of interviews, in the intensity of training sessions. Experienced players want to understand their role within this potential restructuring. Youngsters want to seize opportunities that previously seemed out of reach. And Guardiola, always the central figure, observes everything with the calculated gaze of someone who knows he is leading City into their next major phase. The manager confirms nothing, denies nothing, but his silence on the Rodri Bellingham subject is notable. It is the kind of silence that is not accidental. In the dressing room, it is said that Guardiola has been deeply impressed by the tactical maturity of Nico Gonzalez. The young midfielder, who arrived at the club as a prospect, has turned into a piece that has changed the collective behavior of the team. He fills spaces, links transitions, presses intelligently, and above all, allows City to function even without their main pillar. This gives the club room to think about the future with greater boldness. And it is precisely this margin that fuels the rumors of a possible deal involving Rodri. The logic, as cold as it may seem, makes sense from a management perspective. Trading a player already at his peak for one who is only at the start of his ensures a longer, more sustainable cycle with more room for growth. Bellingham, in this scenario, would be the engine of a new decade, a player who offers everything Guardiola values: intelligence, timing, build-up quality, and threat in the final third. But the psychological cost of losing Rodri is high. Inside the dressing room, he is more than just a player. He is a silent leader, the kind of presence that stabilizes the environment. Sacrificing him would have both sporting and emotional repercussions. While this debate unfolds, Nico O'Reilly continues to grow under a spotlight he never sought. His England debut generated far more noise than expected. It was not just the performance at Wembley, but the way he dealt with the pressure, how naturally he moved, as if he were not representing one of the most demanding national teams in the world, but playing a friendly among friends. This made many analysts reflect on the future of City's defensive and support structure. Some believe that, if he maintains this level, he could gradually take on more important roles at the club, potentially even reshaping future transfer plans. This connection between present and future is also evident in City's search for attacking reinforcements. Antoine Semenyo is one of the names generating the most interest. He combines rare attributes: physical strength, explosiveness, aggression in pressing, and constant development under Iraola. He is the kind of forward who can be shaped into different roles: winger, second striker, aggressive wide forward. And this makes City's analysis department see in him a potential fit for future systems the club plan to explore. His renewal until 2030 complicates any immediate move, but does not rule it out entirely. In Manchester, nobody enters a race without conviction, and the fact that Tottenham and Liverpool are also watching the player only makes everything more complex. Meanwhile, Lucas Paqueta is living through a phase of personal and professional reconstruction. The emotional weight of the betting case left deep marks. He himself admitted that on the day he received the FA notification, he was only hours away from signing with City. The frustration froze his career for months, and although he continues to play at a high level for West Ham, the feeling is that the train passing by was a once-in-a-lifetime one. Now, with the more serious accusations dismissed, Paqueta is trying to regain psychological stability. It is difficult to imagine City reopening talks, but not impossible. The club see clear value in the player, even if the current philosophy points towards younger profiles more aligned with long-term planning. Inside the Etihad campus, the word heard most often is transition. Not a desperate transition, but a planned, strategic, almost surgical one. For years, City have worked with anticipation, always one step ahead, and this moment is no different. Everything indicates that 2026 will be the year in which many pieces are repositioned. The planning involves major signings, unexpected departures, targeted renewals, and a silent but profound rebuild. Rodri, Bellingham, Nico, O'Reilly, Semenyo, Paqueta. All these names, each in their own way, are part of a larger narrative that reveals a City that is restless, ambitious, more strategic than ever. The club that dominated the Premier League over the past decade do not intend merely to maintain their reign, they intend to expand it. And to achieve that, they are willing to question even their own pillars. The feeling is that we are witnessing the beginning of a metamorphosis. And the most surprising part is that all of this is happening at the same time. On the pitch, in the academy, in the market, in the minds and emotions of the players. Every detail fits together like pieces on a board that Guardiola and the board move with care, but also with boldness. As the weeks progress, it becomes increasingly clear that Manchester City is living through a phase in which every movement, whether a shy interview from a player, a free-flowing performance from a young academy talent, or a rumor arriving from Madrid, seems to directly influence the club's direction. The feeling is that nothing is isolated. Everything is part of the same flow, the same process that is quietly preparing City for a transformation that has already begun, even if the public can only see fragments of it. In the corridors of the Etihad campus, the word continuity is as important as the word change. The board knows it cannot simply replace pieces without preserving the identity that Guardiola has built over almost a decade. At the same time, it knows that modern football is ruthless to those who stand still. This duality generates a kind of creative tension, an energy that circulates both among the players and the club's analysts, who seek the perfect balance between renewing the squad and keeping the machine working with the same efficiency. This is directly reflected in the internal studies regarding the future of the midfield. The Rodri issue continues to be the most sensitive. The possible departure of the player would cause a profound shock, not only technically, but psychologically. City has always been structured on the principle of security, and Rodri is security. He is the one who dictates the rhythm, who organizes chaos, who prevents the team from suffering in transitions, who transforms opposition pressure into attacking construction. The speculation that his name could be included in a potential swap deal for Bellingham is treated with extreme caution by everyone around him. But at the same time, there is also an understanding that football, especially at clubs of this magnitude, demands decisions that are sometimes painful. On the other hand, Bellingham represents everything a European giant looks for when trying to reinvent itself without losing strength. Ideal age, explosiveness, mature reading of the game, goal instinct, dominant physical presence, global charisma, potential for at least 10 more years of evolution. He embodies the idea of building a new cycle without sacrificing immediate competitiveness. This is why City's hierarchy treats the possibility as something to be monitored, not dismissed. There is no urgency, but there is vigilance. There is no negotiation, but there is interest. It is a silent dance in which no one takes a step without measuring the ground 3 times. While the future is being discussed at the top, the present beats with special intensity among the younger players. Nico O'Reilly, after his magical night at Wembley, returned to City with a different aura. Teammates treat him with more respect. Coaches speak to him more directly. Even supporters see him differently. When a young player begins to wear the England shirt with natural ease, there is always a status elevation, and that changes how the club places him within medium-term plans. There are reports that O'Reilly, motivated by his debut, has intensified his training routine even further. He knows that opportunities at City are rare and precious, but he also knows that Guardiola values those who show courage and discipline. His growth directly impacts internal discussions about future signings for both defense and midfield, and also reinforces the philosophy that City wants increasingly to integrate academy talents into the first team. Meanwhile, the attacking sector is undergoing an even more detailed mapping. Antoine Semenyo, with his aggressive, explosive, and versatile style, continues to be thoroughly analyzed by City's scouting department. This is not about an immediate signing, but a long-term evaluation. The club wants to build an attack capable of alternating styles without losing efficiency, extreme pace, physical strength, tactical mobility, spatial intelligence. And Semenyo appears as someone who could meet those demands in the future. The interesting point is that this analysis does not isolate Semenyo. He is part of a large diagram with several profiles, each one designed to fill potential gaps that will appear as older players leave the club. It is a gradual, almost mathematical preparation. Nothing is impulsive. Nothing is accidental. At the same time, the Lucas Paqueta story continues to resonate because it touches on themes deeper than football. He represents the athlete who was on the verge of reaching his peak and saw everything interrupted by an accusation that, in the end, did not unfold in the devastating manner initially feared. In Manchester, some still believe his style would fit Guardiola's system. Creativity between the lines, intensity off the ball, aggression in attacking transitions, technical ambition. But the shift in planning, now focused on younger names, creates a natural barrier to any attempt to reopen negotiations. Even so, Paqueta's story has an impact on City because it reminds everyone inside and outside the club that football is unpredictable, that destiny can flip with a single letter sent by the Federation, and that planning, no matter how meticulous, always collides with the human factor. And it is precisely this that makes all these threads, Bellingham rumors, Rodri speculation, the rise of Nico O'Reilly, the monitoring of Semenyo, the emotional scar of Paqueta, feel so connected. Nothing happens in isolation. Every detail pushes another forward. Every rumor opens a new window. Every performance creates a new variable. Everything is part of a continuous line pointing towards the same destination. City is preparing to change, but wants to change with complete control. There is a feeling behind the scenes that the victorious cycle the club has built is not ending, but evolving. And this evolution demands courage to think big, to question certainties, to rebuild while still at the top. And when we look at all of this happening simultaneously, the strategic decisions, the silent movements, the giant names in discussion, the young players exploding on the international stage, and the emotional shadows of past negotiations, it becomes clear that Manchester City is facing a moment that defines eras. It is not simply about buying or selling. It is about designing the future of a club already at the top and yet unwilling to stagnate for even a second. What is being built behind the scenes is not a simple restructuring. It is a complete re-engineering process involving technical pillars, human projects, mentality, and long-term ambition. It is the preparation of a new generation while preserving the strength of the current one. It is the balance between boldness and stability, between tradition and reinvention. And precisely for this reason, everything happening now deserves to be followed closely, because the next transfer windows, the next matches, and the next decisions may completely change what we imagine about City's future, and perhaps even about the balance of power in European football. If you have made it this far, it is a sign that you live this club with passion, attention, and intensity. So take advantage of this moment and strengthen our community even more. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications. This helps enormously in bringing this content to more supporters who, like you, want to stay one step ahead of everything happening at the greatest team in the Premier League.